Ladies and gentlemen, there comes a moment in every life when it feels like all the doors are closed. You knock, but nothing opens. You pray, but heaven seems silent. You wonder, does God even hear me? Let me begin by telling you, He not only hears you, He's already preparing the door. When we pray for a breakthrough, a healing, a job, or a relationship, we often expect instant answers. But the reality of faith is that God rarely works according to our timetable. We live in a fast-paced world where everything is on demand, from food delivery to information, and that mindset can creep into our spiritual expectations. We want God to act now, to fix it today, to open the door immediately. But God, in His wisdom, does not operate on human clocks. His timing is perfect, even when it feels slow to us. What seems like a delay is often divine preparation. Waiting on God is one of the hardest parts of the faith journey because it tests our trust, stretches our patience, and challenges our understanding. We think something is wrong when nothing happens. We assume that silence means rejection or that delay means denial. But that's not how God sees time. His view is eternal. He sees much behind you, what's ahead of you, and what you're not ready for yet. Sometimes, the reason the door hasn't opened is because the situation on the other side isn't ready. And other times, it's because you're not ready. You may still be in the process of being shaped, humbled, matured, or healed. God's delay is not a punishment. It's a sign of His love. He refuses to give you something too soon that could harm you later. There are things we're asking for that could be a blessing in the right season, but a burden in the wrong one. If you force a door open that God hasn't opened yet, you may step into something you're not equipped to handle. But when God opens a door in His time, He also provides the strength, the wisdom, and the grace to walk through it. What you've been praying for is not being ignored, it's being perfectly timed. God is orchestrating every detail behind the scenes, lining things up, moving people into place, shifting circumstances you can't see. He's not just trying to give you what you ask for. He's working to give you more than you imagine. Every moment you spend in waiting is not wasted. God uses that season to build your character, deepen your faith, and prepare your heart for what's coming. The waiting season may be painful, but it's not pointless. Often, the things we want the most require the deepest levels of trust. And trust can only be developed in the silence, in the uncertainty, in the not yet. That's where we learn to surrender control and believe that God's timing is better than our plans. We can look through Scripture and see it time and time again. Joseph waited years in prison. David was anointed king long before he wore a crown. And even Jesus waited until the appointed time to begin His public ministry. None of these delays were mistakes. They were perfectly timed for the purpose God had designed. One of the most discouraging experiences in life is encountering a closed door. Whether it's a job opportunity that slips away, a relationship that ends, a dream that doesn't unfold, or a plan that fails, closed doors can make us feel forgotten, rejected, or even punished. But in the spiritual walk, a closed door is not a sign of denial. It's often a sign of divine protection or redirection. What looks like a setback is frequently God's way of saying, or not here, or not now. I have something better. The challenge is not in the closed door itself, but in how we interpret it. If we see it as rejection, we grow bitter. But if we see it as redirection, we can find peace in the middle of disappointment. God sees things we cannot see. He sees the full picture of your life, your future, your calling, your capacity, and the people connected to your destiny. Sometimes He closes a door to protect you from walking into a situation that would delay you, distract you, or even destroy you. We might not understand it in the moment, but often the greatest blessings are hidden in the moments of no. If God had opened every door you asked Him to, you might have ended up in the wrong place, with the wrong people, or out of alignment with your purpose. The closed door you're frustrated about may be the very thing saving you from unnecessary pain or failure. It's easy to become discouraged when we see others walking through doors that remain closed for us. We compare our journey, question our worth, and doubt our prayers. But every closed door is personalized. What opens for someone else might not be meant for you, and what closes in your life might be creating space for something greater. A closed door is not the end. It's a transition point. It's God's way of moving you in a new direction, aligning you with something that better fits your calling, your gifts, and your future. There's purpose in every pause. Sometimes God closes doors to test our faith and see if we trust Him more than the opportunity. Will we still believe He is good when we don't get what we want? Will we still follow Him when the path is blocked? Faith is not proven in open doors. It's proven when we face a closed one and choose to keep walking, trusting that a better one is ahead. Closed doors often mean God is still working behind the scenes. He's reshaping the situation, rearranging details, or preparing your heart. It's not a denial. It's a redirection wrapped in grace. The truth is, one closed door often leads to another that is far greater. In hindsight, many people look back and thank God for the doors that didn't open. What they once cried over, they now praise over. Because in the hands of God, even a no is a step toward a better yes. Every closed door is a clue that something better is being prepared. There are moments in life when silence feels deafening. You cry out in prayer, yet nothing changes. You ask for healing, provision, or guidance, and the days stretch on without answers. It can feel as if your prayers are bouncing off the ceiling and disappearing into the void. But the truth is, God is never deaf to your cries or blind to your struggles. He sees every tear you shed in secret, every burden you carry quietly, and every desperate plea you've whispered in the darkness. Nothing escapes His notice, and nothing you go through is wasted or overlooked. Just because you don't see immediate results doesn't mean God isn't already at work on your behalf. God is intimately aware of every detail of your life. He knows the weight you're carrying, the questions that haunt you, and the fear that grips you when no one else is watching. He sees when you're holding it together in public but falling apart in private. He knows when you're fighting battles no one else knows about. And in those moments when you feel most forgotten by the world, He is closest. The very pain you think isolates you is what draws His compassion and presence. Scripture says He is close to the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. That means your suffering doesn't push Him away. It pulls Him near. Even when you don't feel anything, even when heaven seems silent, God is listening. Your prayers don't have to be eloquent, long, or filled with the perfect words. Sometimes, the most powerful prayer is a simple cry of, "Help me." And that's enough. God hears the unspoken groans of your soul. He hears the words behind the tears, the meaning behind the silence. Prayer is not just a transaction, it's a connection. It's how your heart stays linked to His, even when your mind is filled with questions. What's beautiful about God's nature is that He responds not always with immediate answers, but with sustaining strength. He may not always remove the struggle right away, but He gives you the grace to endure it. He may not open the door today, but He gives you the courage to keep knocking. Every time you go to Him in prayer, you are building your faith, deepening your trust, and strengthening your spirit. And while you may not see the answer forming, heaven is never inactive. God moves in invisible ways before visible change happens. He aligns people, shifts circumstances, and prepares the path ahead, often in ways you won't realize until later. Your pain has a purpose, and your prayers have power. They are not wasted. They are collected, remembered, and answered in God's perfect timing. What you're going through now is not unseen. God is with you in it. He hears every cry, sees every struggle, and walks with you through every storm. You're not forgotten, you're not ignored, and you're certainly not alone. When life becomes difficult, when prayers go unanswered, and when nothing seems to work despite your best efforts, it's easy to assume that you're being punished, that maybe God is angry with you, or you've somehow failed in your faith. But that's not always the case. In fact, many times what feels like punishment is actually positioning. God is not tearing you down to destroy you. He's shifting you, molding you, and preparing you for something greater than you can currently see. The discomfort you feel is not the result of rejection. It is the process of redirection. There is a divine purpose behind the season you're in. God allows certain delays, challenges, and even losses not to punish you, but to align you with your true calling. You may feel stuck or left behind while others seem to be moving ahead, but God has not forgotten you. He is moving things beneath the surface. The job you didn't get, the door that didn't open, the relationship that didn't last. All of it may have been necessary for your protection, your growth, or your promotion. Sometimes God removes you from something small to position you for something significant. It's in the quiet seasons, in the wilderness moments, that God often does His most important work in us. While we are focused on the visible outcomes, He is focused on the invisible character. He is developing resilience, refining motives, teaching patience, and building the kind of trust that can carry weight. A house must have a solid foundation before it can be built tall, and your foundation is being strengthened in this season. You are being made ready, even if you can't see it yet. The very pain you're facing may be the tool God is using to shift you into alignment with His will. Joseph was thrown into a pit by his brothers and sold into slavery, yet God was not punishing him. He was positioning him to lead a nation. David was chased into caves and hunted like a criminal, yet God was not casting him away. He was preparing him to become king. These seasons didn't feel like favor at the time, but they were filled with divine strategy. Your delays, your detours, and even your disappointments are not meaningless. They are steps on the path to your destiny. It's easy to see them as setbacks, but they are setups. God knows exactly where you need to be and when you need to be there. And sometimes that means removing comfort, closing doors, or allowing trials to shape you. But in the end, you'll look back and realize that every twist and turn had purpose. You weren't being punished. You were being moved into position for something you couldn't handle back then. But we'll be ready for now. You are not being buried, you are being planted. There is growth happening, even in the dark. There is a deep peace in knowing that what God has for you will never require you to beg, force, or manipulate your way into it. When God opens a door, it will open with clarity, ease, and peace, not through striving or pressure. Too often, people wear themselves out trying to push open doors that were never meant for them, thinking if they just work harder, talk to the right people, or try one more time, it will finally happen. But the truth is, what God orders doesn't have to be forced. His doors swing open on His authority, not your effort. When you are forcing something, whether it's a relationship, a career move, a ministry opportunity, or a life decision, it creates anxiety, confusion, and exhaustion. That is not the fruit of the Spirit, and it's not the nature of divine timing. God's doors come with confirmation, not chaos. They align with your peace, not your panic. If you have to lose your identity, compromise your values, or silence your spirit to walk through a door, it may not be the door God opened. It might be one you kicked down on your own. And when we walk through forced doors, we often enter rooms we're not prepared for, carrying burdens we were never meant to bear. There's a big difference between perseverance and force. Perseverance trusts God while continuing to move in faith, waiting on His green light. Force tries to take matters into its own hands, driven by fear or impatience. One is fueled by peace, the other by panic. God honors the humble heart that waits on Him more than the prideful heart that tries to make its own way. Forcing something may give you temporary access, but it often leads to long-term frustration. God's will may require obedience, surrender, and faith, but it will never require you to become someone you're not just to make it happen. God's timing and direction bring results that no human effort can compete with. When He opens a door, you won't have to manipulate people, chase approval, or stress over every detail. His favor will go before you. Resources will align, people will show up, and opportunities will unfold in a way that no man can explain. That doesn't mean it will be effortless or without resistance. But the difference is that you'll feel sustained by His presence rather than drained by your own striving. His doors fit you, fit your calling, and fit your purpose. You won't have to shrink to fit into them. nor will you have to stretch beyond what you can handle. They will align with your identity and your destiny. Learning to trust that God's doors don't need be forced is one of the most freeing lessons in faith. It teaches you to rest, not strive. It builds your confidence in His power, not your performance. It allows you to wait in peace, knowing that what's meant for you cannot be missed, delayed, or denied. It will open exactly when it's supposed to, and when it does, you'll know it was never by your might. It was by His hand alone. Waiting is one of the most uncomfortable parts of the spiritual journey. It tests not just your patience, but your faith, your trust, and your perseverance. It's during this time that many people begin to question God's promises, doubt their worth, or even give up entirely. But the waiting season is never wasted. It is often the most important part of the process because its character is developed, roots are deepened, and preparation is made for the breakthrough that's coming. Faithfulness in the wait doesn't mean you're doing everything perfectly. It means you remain committed, obedient, and grounded even when you don't see results. Remaining faithful means showing up in prayer even when you feel unheard. It means choosing to trust even when fear is louder. It means honoring God not because you feel like it, but because you know He's worthy. In a world that celebrates speed, visibility, and immediate gratification, staying faithful in a silence or stillness is a radical act of trust. It shows that your faith is not based on what you see, but on who God is. You may not understand the timeline, but you understand His character, and that is enough to keep going. There is something powerful about a person who refuses to quit just because things aren't happening fast enough. Faithfulness in the wait teaches endurance. It refines your focus. It separates shallow intentions from deep commitment. Many people want the blessing, but aren't willing to endure the process. But God often uses the wait to build the strength you'll need to carry the breakthrough. The promise doesn't just come to you, it comes through you. And you have to be ready to handle it without letting it destroy you. That kind of readiness only comes from the fire of faithfulness. Breakthroughs are often preceded by long seasons of obscurity. Before David faced Goliath, he was tending sheep in the wilderness. Before Joseph ruled Egypt, he was imprisoned for years. Before Jesus began His public ministry, He spent decades in quiet obedience. None of these men were wasting time. They were being refined by faithfulness. They weren't chasing platforms or recognition. They were simply doing what God had given them to do, day after day. And when the breakthrough came, they were ready. Their foundation was strong because it had been forged in hidden places. Breakthrough is not just about the moment everything changes. It's about who you've become along the way. And that person is shaped in the waiting. It is easy to worship when everything is going right. But when you can worship in the silence, when you can keep walking without seeing, when you can stay faithful with no guarantee of timing, that is where heaven takes notice. That is where ahead begins to go unlock doors that no man can shut. Faithfulness in the wait doesn't earn the breakthrough. It aligns you with it. It places your heart, your character, and your faith in the right posture to receive all that God has prepared for you.